Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fade to Fridays, where we check out the whole fanfics that are not pony related. Why? Because I just finished Persona 4, and I need something to fill that hole in my heart. And oh look, a Persona RWBY crossover. Ooh, let's enjoy, shall we? As we here at the Cherryberry Memorial Library, proud to present Grimm Hour by Kinoka. Enjoy. Grimm Hour by Kinoka. How do you even pronounce that? Welcome to the Velvet Room. The young man with bright blond hair and pale grin slowly opened his eyes. He was half asleep, barely acknowledging his surroundings. He took in briefly a room of calming purple and blue hues. Before he closed his eyes, began to drift back to unconsciousness. Yeah, Mom. Pancakes sound good. The room was a classroom. The young man was leaning back at his desk, head tilted back as he calmly slept. A well-kept man with short green hair and glasses sat behind the teacher's desk inside. He went to the classroom door and gestured a hand. It opened. A stern-looking blonde with glasses stepped in. Her hair was put up and kept perfectly in place by a series of pins, and she wore black-rimmed glasses. Her shirt was white and pencil skirt was indigo-colored. Stilettos clacked on the floor as she entered. Gilda, if you would be so kind. His voice was calm. An open palm gestured to the seated boy, and Gilda nodded. Of course. She made her way across the room to the boy's desk. Then she pulled a small thin stick, seemingly out of air, and held it above the boy with one hand. Crack! It was about to stick down on the boy's desk. Causing a snap to it was so loud the boy jolted awake, found himself looking around in alarm and panic. Instead of staring up at Glinda, confusion and awe, he looked at the green-haired man who was staring intently across the steeple's fingers. I did do it! The person's me too! I did it! Crack! The boy promptly stood up, placing his hands over his ears. Hilda stared down across her glasses. As he clenched every part of his body. Mr. R, so glad of you to finally join us. This is the Velvet Room. The young man looked around him, and for the first time, Billy took in his surroundings. He was seated at a desk in the back of the classroom, with rows of other desks around him. A few desks were shoved off to the side or toppled over in a ragtag manner, but there were at least 6 others that were standing upright in a file. He finally took an appearance at Gilda and Ozpin. He noticed a large blackboard in the back of the room. Across it, in plain white letters, all capitalized and cleanly written, was the word beginning. Hi? Did I fall asleep during class? Man, I don't even remember making it to school today. No, Mr. Ark. At least not yet. You see, this place is between mind and matter. A place between dream and reality. It is a place where only those bound by a contract may enter. I have summoned you here so we can discuss your future. In the real world, as it were, you are merely asleep. The future? Gilda clacked away to the man's side. She stood, arms crossed, staring sternly at the boy. Correct. My name is Osmond. A pleasure, I'm sure. The upcoming months are certain to provide an interesting development to your story. Should you fail to fulfill your role in this narrative, I'm afraid your story may come to an abrupt and unsatisfying end. It is my goal to guide our guests and ensure this does not happen. He gestures to the woman next to him. She lightly raised her stick, and the young man flinched in response. This is Glinda. Like me, she is a resident here. She will guide you through your story, albeit in her own way. Be sure to stay on your best behavior. I may very well be able to help you shape your narrative to something worth discussing. Right, I'm John. Nice to meet you. He shuffled his seat slightly, taking another moment to look around the room, or at least did not have the gaze of the 2 strange people in front of him. We can tend to specifics to another date. Osmond adjusted his glasses and leaned back in his seat, now holding a mug that John could see the steam coming out of. Until then, farewell. Saturday, April 7th. The railway to the Beacon Academy bumped slightly, jarring John in his sleep. He was with a small number of other students, most his age, well-lit train car. Outside you could see it was night, the sea of veil slitting into the sky. In the distance, he followed the tracks to see their final destination, large green clock tower stretching over the rest of the city. Beacon Academy. I must have been asleep a long time. John didn't even realize he remembered most of the train right here. Probably for the best, he figured, as Joan was quite prone to. John felt his stomach do a triple backflip somersault into a handstand. He stood up to rush to the nearest lavatory. Pushed past the other students, and he nearly ran into a small girl with an oversized bright red hoodie. She was on her cell phone and didn't notice him at first. It was about to collide with her when nimbly sidestepped without paying a second thought. Slammed open the door to the lavatory and promptly lost his dinner. Outside, he could hear a conversation. I think someone just blew chunks on the train. Yeah, I guess it is kind of stressful. Yeah. I'm gonna get here after we get. Her voice vanished as she walked away from the bathroom. Oh boy. John flushed and washed his brains briefly. Right. First impression on the way to Beacon is Vomit Boy. Off to a great start. He stood into the bathroom and corrected his wardrobe quickly before stepping off the train. The few people still on the train were staring at him. A red-headed girl was sitting in the back corner talking on her phone. He flushed red and gave a helpless and casual wave to his audience. Put his hands in the pocket and walked out of his seat. He glanced back to the window to see that Bacon was positively looming in on him now. He would be stopping at the destination right outside school any minute. Last stop, Beacon Academy. Please gather your belongings and prepare to disembark. The elevator place cracked out, immediately followed by a shuffle of other passengers grabbing their things. John checked for a few meager things. Cell phone, backpack, suitcase. Seemed all set. Running his hands through his hair, stood up. As the doors cracked open, John stepped to the station and prepared for his new life at Beacon. John checked his phone as he left the train to find a single new message. Sat there on the top of the screen. Popped it open with a touch. Good luck! We have such high hopes for you. Just promise you'll take responsibility for your actions, Dad. He sighed, texting back quickly with an I promise. Dragged his suitcase and looked around the station. Signs clearly pointing to him where he needed to go. He set his way out of the station and into a well-lit nighttime streets of Vale. The other students walked towards different cars that were waiting to pick them up and take them to their dorms. One such car was apparently a limo, and the girl in the red hoodie was standing outside of it, talking to an absolute angel. She had long luscious hair, the color of an angel's feathers, tied back in a perfect ponytail. She wore a white dress crafted by the gods specifically for her body. It was short enough to show off just a bit of the defined legs that laid down to perfectly cleaned white boots. John stood staring there for a solid moment, mouth agape. He started walking towards them. One of the drivers of the vehicle seemed to be looking at him questioningly, but John was oblivious. All the cars that were transporting students left one by one. By the time John realized he was his ride, it was too late. Wait! Crap! No! He shouted, but they were already headed down the streets of the city towards Beacon. Shoot! Get some hoof in it, unless... He turned to the girl in red and the girl in white and started walking towards them. He realized their conversation had spiraled out into an argument. It seemed mostly one-sided, with his precious angel berating the other poor girl. Guess it's not a good time. Never mind. John looked up at the clock tower and started walking down the street towards Beacon. At least he got a good look at the city of Vale. He passed by cafes, small businesses, shops for food, medicine, herbal remedies, tarot readings. He kept moving at a simple pace, despite the fact that it was dead of night. The well-lit city of Vale lived on, feeling pretty calm. And what am I hearing beneath the mask from Persona 5? He heard the toll of the clock tower in the distance, and watched it turn midnight. First few times were followed by dead silence. Not the silence of the night in the city, but a truly unnerving absence of sound that chilled John to his core. It was followed by every light in the city going all out at once. Hey! He looked around in panic as his eyes were forced to adjust to the new sun blackness surrounding him. The only source of light was a very bright moon in the sky, a sickly yellow that haloed at the top of the clock tower. Standing from a general store that called for dusk till dawn, from which swore was a red brick a moment ago. So I was very certain that the walls had always had pouring out of them in bright red rivulets down to the street. What the heck? And down the street saw a silhouette standing a couple of blocks away. Right, maybe that guy will help. He ran towards the figure at full speed, leaving his suitcase behind. Heart racing. As he got closer, though, he realized he wasn't staring at the person at all. Is this a freaking coffin? In the middle of the street? What the heck? He stood there panicking, looking left and right at the strange transformation that must have overtaken the city of Vale. Okay, Teddy boy, deep breaths. Maybe this is just a prank. Yeah, they're just here to get all the kids storing to school to forget a bit. Yeah, that must be. A loud screech pierced the air, and John nearly pissed himself as his head whipped around to the source of the noise. A large winged creature, the size of a car, was slowly descending towards him from the sky. It looked like a giant raven. Save where his face would be was a bright blue mask with the number 0 at the top, two burning red eyes poking through the holes. Vicious-looking beak poked through the mask, open wide. The creature was staring right at him. Oh, crap, oh, crap, oh, crap, 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 crap. John began to sprint away from the coffin. The large bird continued his relentless descent. As he ran, he spotted more coffins propped up in alleys and on street corners. He turned over his head to see the creature getting ever closer. No matter how fast he ran, "It's going to get me!" He slipped down to his knees, put his hand over his head, prayed something would save him. He heard footsteps quickly approaching him. They rushed up next to him, and he was sure someone was directly behind him. His terror stopped him from opening his eyes. "Persona," heard a girl's voice from right behind him. A sound of gun being fired. He jolted up, turned around to see a bright red-hooded girl standing between him and the bird demon. She was holding a pistol to her head. Her hand was holding a long, thin black box he saw on the train. Blue fog was emanating out of her body. A large humanoid figure floating in the air directly behind her. It had a very vibrant, crimson cloak that covered most of its face, billowed far out behind it. The half of his body was largely concealed by the cloak. The left hand had a gargantuan sword with a curve to it. His body looked like to be made out of marble, with every part outside of the cloak looking like a nude statue. Certain points were accented in silver, giving almost an armor-like appearance to the wrists, groin, and shins. A single red eye poked out from beneath the cloak, set against the marble-like face. The bird dove at the girl. The red-cloaked being spun its sword in a overhead arc. No need for the paragraph. The blade collided with the top of the bird's head, smashing into the street, causing the ground beneath John's feet to shake. He backed away from the battle on hands and knees, doing her first crab walk and shuffling behind a mailbox. Another soldier see a raven rise up and strike at the creature floating above the girl's head. Her promptly vanished as soon as it happened. The girl had to dodge out, roll out of the way, avoid being impaled by the demon's beak. As she came and put the gun to her head, pulled the trigger again. "Go get him, Tyr!" The sound of the gun stopped. The humanoid creature floated in front of her once more. He used the right side of its cloak's body to shoulder tackle it to the raven. Brought its sword in one-handed swing. And it reeled from impact, smashing into the side of the office building. The bird shook a few more hits before opening its wings wide, shot a ray of dart-like feathers into the area. Sean ducked behind the mailbox again, avoid being hit. He saw the feathers stamp into the street on the other side of him. "Crap!" He turned back to see the girl had a few of the feathers sticking out of her, looking them down. Her movements were more sluggish as she continued to fight. It's the thing to fight the bird monster. She was still carrying the thin black box. She has a shield to smack the creature away every now and then. "RWBY, use wind attacks!" He heard another girl's voice coming from down the street. "That's its weakness! Use wind! Got it!" She pulled the trigger again. This time the humanoid creature spun in a circle and raised his sword wielding high. "Garu!" She shouted, and a torrent of air began to spin under the monster. It lifted the creature up in a gust, and the bird desperately tried to adjust itself with its wings. It failed. It slid back down to the ground with a noticeably hard thud. The girl tossed her black case in the air, and John Watson popped open to reveal a long, thin, red-headed staff. The girl grabbed it, a thin blade beside it. With practiced efficiency, she slid the blade into place and hit a few key switches on the staff, revealing it to be a large scythe. "Tyr!" The girl used the pistol against her once more. Anthony reappeared, raising his arms high. Another gust of wind appeared, this time under the girl. She jumped, propelled by the wind to dizzying heights. The girl spun in the air with the scythe in hand. John saw she was being framed by the clock tower and the moon behind it. She must have lifted impossibly high, bringing the sight of her head, the red hood of her oversized jacket billowing out behind her. Then she came down. She drove right at the bird creature, right as it was raising itself up to keep fighting. She fell a bit on the other side of it, fast as lightning. Her shape shivered in the moonlight. First the creature's mask fell off, revealing that the bird-like creature had no facial features beneath it. Then the head simply slid out the rest of her body. The creature, wings akimbo, fell to earth. It began to dissipate, small pitch black particles of it floating into the air around the girl. Earl, for her part, calmly walked back to her case, removed the blade from her sight, and put it back in its box. She looked around for a moment, then spotted John poking out from behind the mailbox. Walked over to him. You still see it on the ground, looking at her wide-eyed. She held out a hand. I'm Ruby Rose. John. He held her hand and slowly came to a stand. He realized he was much taller than her in the process. John Ark. Huh. You know, when I think of a good Persona combination with Ruby, Persona 3 is not exactly top of that list. It's more like the bottom, right next to Persona 2, Judgment. I mean, Persona 3 is great. I've seen the anime. It's just that Persona 3's themes don't exactly mess with Ruby's all that much. Now, Persona 4? Hell yeah! One down, thousands more to go. See you next time.